Have you ever noticed how David's Psalms take us on an emotional journey? Psalm 61 is a perfect example of this pattern. David here begins with a heavy, sorrowful heart, but by the end, he's practically singing with joy. There's something beautiful about how the soul, when it's lifted up to God, comes back to find rest and peace within itself. Welcome back to Copying the Master, where we paint that which we see and copy Scripture to learn from God. Now let's dive into today's study of Psalm 61 using Matthew Henry's commentary. Again, if you are interested in the detailed original commentary, please see the link in the description box. May our hearts be open to hear the voice of the Lord from His Word as we copy and paint in watercolor. According to the commentator, we're not entirely certain about the historical context of this psalm. David was clearly in exile, driven away from his home and the sanctuary he loved. Some scholars think that this was during his fight with King Saul, while others believe it was written during Absalom's rebellion. The fact that David refers to himself as the king in verse 6 might support the Absalom theory, though it could also be a prophetic reference to the coming Messiah. What we do know is this: David makes a firm decision in this psalm to remain faithful in his duty to God. He finds encouragement both in what he has already experienced with God and in what he expects God to do in the future. The psalm beautifully unfolds in three movements. First, David says he will call upon God because God has been his protector in the past. Second, he continues to call on God because the Lord has provided well for him. And finally, he praises God because he's confident that God's favor will continue. Now let's read. Psalm 61, for the director of music with string instruments of David. Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the foe. I long to dwell in your tent forever and take refuge in the shelter of your wings. For you, God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those who fear your name. Increase the days of the king's life, his years for many generations. May he be enthroned in God's presence forever. Appoint your love and faithfulness to protect him. Then I will ever sing in praise of your name and fulfill my vows day after day. Psalm 61. Let's look at David's unwavering commitment to seek God in prayer, even when he's in deep distress. He says, I call as my heart grows faint. Notice what David doesn't do. He doesn't turn to other gods. He doesn't withdraw from God because he's suffering, but instead, he clings more tightly to the Lord. David doesn't pray with cold indifference either. His prayer has deep longing, urgency, and fervency, like someone wrestling in prayer, who absolutely will not let go until he receives a blessing. David commits to this kind of prayer despite two significant obstacles. First, he's far from the sanctuary, the house of prayer where he used to worship regularly. He says, "From the ends of the earth I will cry out to you." Here's the beautiful truth. Wherever we are, we have freedom to come to God. The way to the throne of grace is always open. Heaven is equally reachable from every place on earth. In fact, David almost seems to be saying, "Because I'm here in the end of the earth, in sorrow and solitude, I will cry to you." What separates us from other comforts should actually drive us closer to God, who is the source of all comfort. Second, David's heart is overwhelmed with sadness and discouragement. He says, "Though my heart is overwhelmed, it's not so crushed that it can't be lifted up to God in prayer." His reasoning is powerful. Because my heart is about to be overwhelmed, that's exactly why I will cry out to you, for that's how it will be supported and relieved. This teaches us that tears should make us pray more, not less. As James reminds us, "Is anyone in trouble? Let him pray." When David's heart is overwhelmed and he feels like he's drowning, he makes a specific request. "Lead me to the rock that is higher than I." What does this mean? First, it's the rock that is too high for me to reach unless you help me up to it. David is saying, or is asking, for the kind of assurance and confidence in his safety that he could never achieve on his own. Only through God's special grace, working faith in his heart. Second, it's the rock where, once I'm placed on top of it, I'll be lifted up above my troubles, closer to the peace and calm, far beyond what I could ever reach by my own wisdom or strength. God's power and His promises are that rock, which is higher than we are. Ultimately, this rock is Christ Himself, and those who are in Him are completely safe. We cannot climb onto this rock by ourselves. God must lead us there by His power, just as He told Moses, "I will put you in the cleft of the rock." Through faith and prayer, we place ourselves under God's direction so that we might be brought under His protection. David continues by praying with a genuine faith. "Hear my cry, O God. Attend to my prayer." He's essentially saying, "Let me have the comfort right now of knowing that you hear me, and in your perfect time, grant me what I'm asking for." His hope is grounded in past experience. He pleads, "You have been a shelter for me. I have found you a rock higher than I. Therefore I trust you will continue to lead me to that rock." Our past experiences of God's help should not only keep us close to Him, but also encourage us to hope that He will continue to help us. David concludes this section with a commitment to ongoing faithfulness. "I will live in your tent forever." Even though he was currently banished from the tabernacle, he was confident that God would bring him back. He had such a sure, deep love for God's house that he was determined to make it his permanent home. But David is thinking bigger than just the physical tabernacle. He's looking forward to that heavenly tabernacle, the house of glory, where those who serve faithfully here will dwell forever. In the second part of the psalm, David's tone shifts as he remembers with joy what God has already done for him. "You, O Lord, have heard my vows." God is a witness to all of our vows. Our good intentions and our solemn promises, He keeps a record of them, which should motivate us, as it did David, to fulfill what we've promised. After all, the one who hears our vows will also hold us accountable if we don't keep them. David continues, "You have given me an inheritance among those who fear your name." God Himself is their inheritance, their eternal portion. With this foundation of past faithfulness, David looks ahead with confidence. "You will prolong the king's life." This verse can be understood in two ways. First, it could refer to David himself. even if he wasn't yet officially king when he wrote this, he had been anointed by Samuel and knew God's promises. He could confidently call himself the king, even while being hunted like an outlaw. Second, and perhaps more significantly, this verse points to the Messiah, the king whom David represented. It brought David comfort to know that regardless of what happened to him personally, the years of the Lord's anointed would last through many generations, and the increase of his government and peace would never end. Jesus always stands before God, interceding for us, and lives forever. Because he lives, we too will live. Even with this confidence, though, David continues to pray urgently. Prepare mercy and truth to protect me. God's promises and our faith in them don't replace prayer. They encourage and strengthen it. David is confident God will lengthen his life, so he prays for God to preserve it, not through armies or fortified castles, but through mercy and truth, keeping him safe. Finally, David promises joyful service. So I will sing praise to your name forever. David sees praising God as both the way he fulfills his vows and the motivation to keep fulfilling them in every area of his life. The vows we make must be faithfully carried out, and praising God should be our ongoing daily work. We receive new mercies every day, and though what we do is very little compared to what we owe, we must keep at it faithfully. Psalm 61, for the director of music with string instruments of David. Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the foe. I long to dwell in your tent forever and take refuge in the shelter of your wings. For you, God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those who fear your name. Increase the days of the king's life, his years for many generations. May he be enthroned in God's presence forever. Appoint your love and faithfulness to protect him. Then I will ever sing in praise of your name and fulfill my vows day after day. Psalm 61. Psalm 61 reminds us that when our hearts are overwhelmed, we don't withdraw from God. We run towards him. Through Matthew Henry's commentary, we can see that we can call on God from anywhere and that he hears us. And when we can't lift ourselves up, he leads us to the rock. Our past answers to prayer are fuel for our future faith, and daily praise is both our duty and our delight. Mercy and truth are our strongest defense. So let's take a moment today to dwell in the shelter of his wings, to trust him to lead us again to the rock that is higher than we are. And may our hearts overflow with praise today and forevermore. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Psalm 61:2. Thank you for watching this video. If it has blessed you, would you share it with someone else? May the Lord bless you as you seek Him and glorify Him in all that you do. Bye-bye. Till next time.